What is Seal It With a Smile?
Is it a teaching style? Is it a thought process?
Is it a philosophy? Is it...
Here's the best way I can explain what Seal It With a Smile is.
Look!
Yay!
Yay!
Welcome to
Seal It With a Smile!
And welcome to Seal It With a Smile. My name is Juan Campos. Thank you for joining me on episode 35, The Universe. Our school starts up on Monday. That's right. School starts on Monday for you, for me. Well, not for you. Maybe for you. We start school on Monday. And that's right. We had our week of PD and we are ready to go. And I know for a lot of students and most importantly for teachers, the beginning of school is a highly stressful time where you're trying to get your room ready. Nothing seems to be going right. Everything seems to be going wrong. And you can't ever get everything done the way you want it to. But somehow magically at the last minute, it all seems to come together. Or it doesn't come together, but you make it happen. Either way, you end up on top. You end up with your game face ready to go, ready to welcome those kids. And that's obviously the most important part, that you are ready. But what exactly does it take to make that situation happen? What exactly has to happen for that moment when you enter another child's life, or that child, vice versa, enters your life? So I'm going to take you on a very, very interesting little story. And if you would, please follow along on this very special journey. Don't ask a lot of questions. Don't challenge the assumptions. Just kind of flow with me, and I promise you the trip will be worth it. So let's step back in time on this little story. Let's go back, a few million, billion, gazillion years to when there was nothing. That's right. Let's go back in time to when there was nothing. Because at some point, when there was nothing, all of a sudden, boom, there was something. And out of that something, essentially, came everything. So we went from nothing to something, and then everything came after that. And when I mean everything, literally everything came after that. And as everything came after that, scientifically speaking, and I'm giving myself a little artistic license, so just flow with me. And out of that everything, there was these tiny little particles. And out of those tiny little particles, they started to get along. We call them protons and neutrons, and they started to get along. And then they had a little buddy named an electron, but he was kind of a loner, so he wanted to hang out with them, but he actually wanted to hang out like away from them and just kind of circle around them. They got together and they formed atoms. And then when one electron showed up, a proton showed up. And when two electrons showed up, two protons showed up. And on and on and on, this stuff happened. And atoms, if you remember your science from elementary, maybe middle school, definitely high school, are the essential, or rather the building blocks of everything. Everything started to form, and this everything started to come together. And it just so happens that some of these everythings got together and started forming these like light balls. And there was these other everythings that started to come together and started forming these like rock balls. And it just so happens that there was this one light ball that had attracted like maybe 8 or 9 rock balls. And they all started kind of circling around the light ball. And it just so happens that the third rock ball from this light ball kind of was in a really nice spot. Not too close, not too far, kind of like a Goldilocks thing. And it just so happens that all the stuff that was floating around in the air started to come together and come together and come together. And it started to form what's called an atmosphere. And within this atmosphere, all this stuff started forming again. And then we had things like hydrogen getting together with oxygen, but not just one hydrogen, like 2 of them. It started getting together with this one oxygen, and then boom, we had water. And then all this water started forming, and then all of a sudden there was other stuff that was coming together, like amino acids. And then all of a sudden amino acids started to come together, and they started forming little cells, and cells started to form together, and they started microorganisms and unicellular organisms, and then on and on and on. This kind of progressed and kind of progressed and kind of progressed until we had all this stuff like floating in the water. And then these things that were floating in the water, they started to kind of interact with the water, and then you started seeing gills, and then things started to develop fins, and then things were like moving around. And then somebody decided, hey, there's got to be more to life than what's in the water, and maybe somebody decided to jump up out of the water and was like, oh, there's stuff over there. And then he said, or she said, okay, well, let's try and get out there. So somebody decided to get up, got onto the ground, said it was kind of cool, got back in, got back out, come in, come out, and then things started coming on land. And the things that on the land, they started to grow as well, but they didn't grow just like the stuff in the water. They started to grow a little bit differently. And they started to get legs, and then they started to breathe oxygen instead of just oxygen in the water. And then they started developing lungs, and then all this other stuff started to happen. And then they got really, really big. And so really, really big stuff started to form on this rock. And then the big things that were living on this rock died out. So the smaller things, the smaller creatures, as opposed to the big creatures, they started to take over. And there was a lot of diversity. There's a lot of different types of things. Lots of different creatures that have all these different specialities and were adapted to different environments. It was just all stuff all over. And then for some weird reason, there was this one particular type of little creature. Don't really know why. Maybe he was a little bit curious. Maybe she was a little bit curious. Don't really know what was the deal. But for some reason, this one particular type of creature walked on two legs. Brain was a little bit different. Started to get together, hang out with other people or other creatures that were like him or her. Started to get together more and more. And then they started to travel. And then they moved around. And they were really good at just adapting to their different environments. When it was hot, creature would adapt to that environment. When it was cold, creature adapted to that environment. And on and on and on. And for some reason, this creature didn't like to kind of hang out. It wanted to move around and or flow with where the food source was, or just kind of roll with it, right? But this creature started to have babies and spread around and on and on. And then, one day, it figured out that plants grew when you put seeds in the ground. And boom, it didn't have to move around anymore because it could grow food now, kind of like all the time. But it kind of made it stuck where it was planting this stuff. Eventually, over time, it said, all right, well, if this is where I'm going to hang out, I might as well build a house. Might as well make it look nice. And, now I got these kids that I used to leave, but now they're hanging around with me all the time. I guess I should play with them. Or I guess I should build little toys for them, and so on and so forth. And then as more and more of these creatures started to plant more and more food, they didn't move around as much. And so then they're like, hey, maybe it's a good idea to like build stuff next to water. They drink water, so they think I might as well be next to the thing that I drink. And then a bunch of them got together, and then they started to hang out and started to talk and they started to do stuff. And since they wanted to hang out together and since they wanted to build stuff, they started to hang out with people that they liked. And then they would like fight with people that they didn't like. And then they would take over territory, and they would say, no, I like this spot. This spot's cool, and I will fight you for it. And then they're like, well, people that I like, why don't we all get together and like fight against the people we don't like? And then they started doing that. Cities got built bigger, and then towns got turned into cities. And then they were like, hey, we need to show our little ones what we're doing so that they can keep doing what we're doing. And so then they started doing apprenticeships, and they started showing them stuff. And because they had to defend themselves against other people, they started to build weapons. And they were like, hey, I need to show other people how to do what I'm doing, because what if people forget? So they started passing along all this information. And then they started like drawing it, and then they started writing it down. And then they started to believe in stuff and all sorts of different things because they were like, hey, there's got to be something bigger than me. I'm going to believe in the water, and I'm going to believe in things that I couldn't see, and I'm going to believe that somebody or something is bigger than me and is controlling my life, or maybe is dictating what I'm doing, because obviously if I'm here for a purpose. And on and on and on, and this kept happening over and over and over and over again for thousands of years. For thousands of years, this stuff kind of happened over and over again. Now, obviously, when we look at it, hindsight is always 20/20, so we think sometimes that these people were primitive, but in actuality, that is a hindsight that is reserved for people in our positions because we are the beneficiaries of their labor. So while it is kind of cool that we can say, oh, well, man, they were really, backwards back then, the only reason we can say that is because they were able to do what they did. And we are the beneficiaries of that knowledge and that experience and that time. And just like people from 1,000 years from now, they will be beneficiaries of our work. And who knows how advanced people will be in 1,000 years or 2,000 years. At this point in time, all these people that got together, your great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, when he met your great-great-great-great-grandma, and on and on and on and on. All that happened, all that interaction, all those moments led to your birth. And boom, you were born. And when you were born, all those things had to happen for you to be born. Not only that, but think about all the life experiences that led to you listening to me right now. Think about your childhood. Think about all the flops and the hurts and the scratches and the mistakes and the yes ma'am and the no ma'am and the mistakes you made in 5th grade and then in 6th grade and then 7th grade and then when you were in high school and when you were the most popular kid in school, or maybe you were the loner that nobody talked to. All those kinds of situations and the decisions that you made based on that information that you had at that moment. And then when you graduated high school, or maybe you didn't graduate high school, but when you started to work and you started to provide for your family and you started to, or at least think about a family, or think about maybe not having a family, or whatever your life is right now, all those moments, all those decisions that led for you to go onto your phone or your tablet or your computer and click play and listen to my voice. All those situations, everything that had to happen from when we went from nothing to everything, to something to everything. Everything that had to happen for you to be able to listen to my voice. That is amazing. You are amazing. You are a product of nothing turning into something, turning into everything. You are made of stars. The same hydrogen that flows through your body in the form of water, that same hydrogen that makes anywhere from 65 to 75% of your body, is the same element that is powering that big, gigantic, beautiful orange ball 2 rocks away from us. It is that same element that we all have in common. It is that same element that fuels the energy that keeps this 3rd ball alive and living, and with all the living creatures on it. And it's what allowed you to be here at this moment, listening to my voice right now. So when you walk into your school, whether it's day 1 or day 7, and you look at every single child, understand that they are everything just like you. And just like you, going from nothing to something, to everything, That is their process. And just like you, full of potential, full of promise, full of the inevitability of whatever it is that you decide to become, that's where they are in their lives. Do not think for 1 second that the moment you met them and the moment they met you was pure coincidence, because I can guarantee you that it is not. Every child that you come across is there for a reason. From the quote-unquote best child to the quote-unquote worst child. Those are just words we use. Only words we use to describe, but that is not what is. Because that child sitting in front of you is pure potential, just like you. None of us are done. We are full of everything. We are made of stars. You and I and the child in front of you, we are all made of potential. We are made to be whatever it is we choose to be. So make every day count. Make every moment count. Because what we don't have in abundance, what none of us can control, is time. Time you have with your students is absolutely 100% essential. Do not waste that time. Make it count. Add value to the time you have with these kids, because that's only going to double the value to you. When you add value to others, the value to you is threefold. And adding value to others is what we do. You are the you in universe. You make it happen every single day. So make it happen. Make I'm trying to make a joke. Make your universe awesome. And I'm not just talking about your teaching. I mean you. Make your universe awesome as well. Add value to your own life. If you're not eating right, don't eat right just to eat right. Eat right because it makes you better. Because it makes you think better. It makes you healthier. If you're not into exercise, don't exercise because it's trendy. Exercise because it's going to make you better. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to make your mind better and your heart better. It's going to help you be better. It's going to add value to your life. Whatever it is that you choose to do. If you love someone, love them. Put your heart into them. If you care about someone, if you're going to be nice to someone, be nice to them. Go all in with your niceness. Because the universe, everything decided you should be here. You are a part of this. You are a part of this universe. So add value. Add value to the universe and add value to somebody else's universe, because that will only add value to your universe. We are all stars. We are made of stars, and the same hydrogen that runs through my blood is the same hydrogen that runs through yours and every other kid and the stars and the sun and everything that you see around us. Be humbled and be grateful and add value to others. And I promise you, I triple dog promise you, that if you do that every single day, not only in the classroom, but to every single human interaction that you have, it'll be a brand new world. Thank you so much for joining me here on Seal with a Smile. And remember, every interaction, every situation, no matter whether it's with your kids or anybody else in your life, always make sure to seal it with a smile. My name is Juan Campos. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful, beautiful year. Add value. And I will catch you next time.